Elmwood, I want to preach from the topic, show me your scars. Show me your scars. Maybe you, like me, are going out of your way to cover up your scars, your wounds, your imperfections. If so, this message is for you. Why? Well, first of all, our scars have a story. With each scar comes a story. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite icebreakers when we're working in small groups is an exercise called Tell Me Your Scar Story. Some are funny, some are foolish, some are painful, but there is always a story behind a scar. In our text, Jesus makes a post-resurrection appearance to his disciples. We learned last week that Mary has already seen the Lord, but the disciples have not. They have locked themselves away because they are fearful that the fate of Jesus will be their fate as well. So they are locked up in this room, filled with fear and doubt when suddenly Jesus appears. Jesus appears and says, "Peace be with you." And then he shows them his scars. The text says that the disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord, and where there was once fear and doubt, there is now peace and hope. Honestly, y'all, and you all know I'm an honest preacher, when I first read this text, I had to scratch my head a little bit. You mean to tell me the scars inflicted on Good Friday are still present and visible on Easter morning? Hold on, wait. You mean to tell me that God had the power to raise Jesus from the dead, but he couldn't get rid of some scars? But then I realized Jesus still has his scars because his scars tell the story. When the disciples saw the nail prints in his hand and the wounds on his side, they remembered the story. And because they remembered the story, they knew that this was Jesus. The same Jesus who was born in Bethlehem, raised in Nazareth, and baptized in the Jordan. They knew when they saw his scars that this was the same Jesus who was tempted in the wilderness, who preached in Galilee. This was the same Jesus who was tried in Caesar's court, who died on Calvary's hill, who was buried in Joseph's tomb. And just when they thought that the story was over, his scars prove that early on Sunday morning, he got up with all power in his hands. Jesus kept his scars because his scars told the story. That is good news. Our scars are a part of our story. And for some of us, that is the problem. We try to hide our scars because we don't want to remember that part of the story. Looking at our scar reminds us of the pain. Looking at our scar reminds us of what we've been through. If this is you, allow me to encourage you. Your scar is a reminder that you've been hurt, but they are also proof that we've survived. We have all gone through something that could have taken us out. An illness, an accident, a near-death experience. Some of us have gone through some emotional pain that could have took us out. A divorce, a failure, released from our job. But our scars prove that we went through these things and survived. Let me tell you, in order to bring my children into this world, I had to have 2 C-sections. Now let me pause parenthetically to say, best scars ever. Because out of those scars came new life. Some of the scars that we have is because God was trying to bring forth new life. Some of the cuts and bruises that we have is because God needed to cut us in order so that we can live. So my first C-section was an emergency C-section, and it was over pretty quickly. I went into the delivery room at 9 o'clock, and before they could find a gown big enough to fit Andre, Nyla was here. The second C-section with AJ was scheduled, but it took so much longer. So I asked my doctor, I said, why did it take so long the second time around? She said, because there was a lot of scar tissue from the first C-section. She said scar tissue is tougher than regular skin. In other words, the scarred part of my body had become even stronger than it was before the incision. That means that the thing that scars us, if we survive, will in fact make us stronger. That means that if we ever get attacked in that area again, it will take longer for the enemy to get through. Because the skin is stronger. The skin is tougher than it was before. And do I have anybody in the house today who can testify that I am scarred, but I'm stronger? And finally, our scars are signs that we have something to share.